Next up, we have David. David believes that the Christian God is loving and that he is real. So, David, welcome in. Can I get your age and pronouns, please?
Yeah, I'm 19, and my pronouns are he, him.
Okay, David, you believe the Christian God is real and all loving.
$20. I was looking forward to paying to skip him. Shucks.
Thank you, friend. Thank you, friend. David, you believe the Christian God is real and you believe he is not evil. So what, Dave, of which of those two do you want to start with? Do you want to start with real? Because we can start with real.
Mm-hmm. Sure, yeah, we could start with real.
Okay, Dave, what is your evidence that the Christian God is real?
My evidence is that that Jesus Christ fulfilled a lot of prophecies. Like, for example.
And where do you get really quickly, David? Where do you get the historical facts that Jesus fulfilled prophecies?
There's some in the Bible and from eyewitnesses.
Okay, and where were those eyewitness accounts written down?
They were written down. If you look at these books in the New Testament, they were written down around 90, 80,
okay.
80. Like,
so
literally at the same time he was.
So we're gonna go through this, David. You're making a claim that the Christian God is real because the Bible tells you he's real. The problem is the Bible is the claim. The Bible is the thing claiming that the Christian God is real. So in order to prove he's real, you now need a level of evidence that is separate of the Bible. The Bible can't be the claim and the evidence. It can only be one of those two things.
I could give you one.
Okay, sure. What is it?
So, for example, the Jews say he existed.
I have no contention that Jesus existed. I'm fully willing to admit that Jesus was a real person that existed at a real point in time. I just don't think there was any mysticism around him, and I would not believe he was a son of God or a prophet. I believe he was a real person, probably. But right now, we're trying to prove God exists. So Jesus being a real person doesn't prove that God exists. It just proves that somebody named Jesus was really alive at some point in history.
Well, Jesus says himself that he and the Father are one, claiming that he is God in human form.
Jesus also claims that he and his apostles are Jesus also claimed that him and the apostles are one. Does that mean all of the apostles are also God?
Him and the apostles?
Yes, he claims that him and his apostles are all one. So if him claiming that he's God, that he's one with God, is him saying that he is God. If he's saying that him and his apostles are all one, does that make all 12 of the apostles also God?
One is like, and where does that say that he's one with the apostles too?
Oh, sure, I'll pull it up. Right. John 17, 20-23, all who believe through the apostles' messages will be one, just as he and the Father are one.
John 17.
Yeah, John 17. I make requests not concerning these only, but also concerning those putting faith in me through the word, so that they may all be one, just as you, Father, are in union with me and I am in union with you, that they also may be in union with us. So if he's saying that, they're also one, does that mean that they're all God as well? Or was Jesus, when he says, I and the Father are one, he meant that more in like a spiritual sense, not any literal sense? Now this, by the way, David, does not prove that Jesus is God. It just proves that in your worldview, Jesus said he was God, right? These are two different claims.
Okay. And I'm sorry, it was 17. What now? 17.
Well, the one I just read to you is John 17, 20 to 23. But again, David, Jesus saying he's God does not prove that God is real. I'm just want to reiterate this.
Well,
especially since the claim that Jesus says this is from the Bible, and the Bible is making the claim and is not a source of evidence. You would need evidence outside the Bible. If I were to tell you, hey, David, mermaids are real because I found a notebook written by a bunch of sailors back in like 1455 that said they saw mermaids, this isn't enough evidence to corroborate the claim.
Yeah. I was going to tell you something. So I was reading it, right? And here it says that, for me, it's saying that they may be one as in they're all united as one person, like as one church, not that they're all one.
Yes,
like,
I believe this would be
like
the same way God. Jesus was referring to God when he says that he and God are one. It's that we are all one with God and all united in his holy whatever. I believe he's using the phrase in the same way. This doesn't prove, though, doesn't prove evidence of God.
But on the next
evidence
verse,
of God.
Sorry. I was going to say, but on the next verse it says that Father, that all of them may be one, Father, just as you are in me and I am in you, meaning that the Father's in him and he's in the Father.
I think that right there proves to me that Jesus didn't think he was God, because first of all, I think if Jesus believes himself to be God, why would he be referring to God as a separate entity, such as Father? I think what Jesus would have been saying is he'd be more speaking to himself, right? Secondly, if Jesus is saying, I want to be one with them as I am with you, right? This is going to clarify the way that he means that I and the Father are one when he says that earlier. He's clarifying this.
Well, so
he's more talking about a spiritual unity between himself and God. But David, again,
Father,
this
Son,
isn't evidence of God existing. Well, I don't believe in the Trinity, so I don't think there's much evidence in the Bible for the Trinity as well.
Well, there is a lot of evidence to me that
I disagree.
That he existed, right? You say he existed.
Sure, I can imagine a world that Jesus was a real person. I think Jesus as a person, this is what I believe to have happened. I think what happened is Jesus was positioning himself to be an anti-authority figure, right? He was going against the Roman Church and going against the Roman Guard. In the way that he was, I mean, we know that the Romans were after him. We can see this in the way that the reason why he was crucified. He was crucified for claiming to be the king of the Jews, which the Romans felt was specifically Herod felt what Herod, I don't remember, felt was blasphemous to the sanctity of Roman law, not for any spiritual reason. I think what happened is he was Herod. Thank you, guys. What happened is he was more fighting against what seemed like Roman oppression against like the poor people of the time and whatnot. And so they crucified him when he pushed some level of claim against theirs on a monarch level. And then a bunch of people took that story and reworked it, which is why we don't really get any major accounts of Jesus's life until what I think the first account is 30 years after his death is when we have Is it John? Is the first account? I don't remember when we're looking at the Gospels, which Gospel came first, but I think it was 30 years after Jesus' death is when we get the first Gospel, if I'm remembering my time frame correctly. I think this would be why. It's because they posthumous. They did it after the fact. They created the story around his divinity in order to formulate some power amongst this religion that they were starting. That's what I believe happened historically.
So you think 30 years, they wrote about 30 years after the fact?
Well, we know the first gospel was written well after Jesus' death. Hold on. Let me pull it up.
Well, it was actually like in the same lifetime,
No, it wasn't.
Like, John, he wrote it.
The first gospel, which is Mark, would have happened around 60 to 70 CE. So this is going to be 35 to 40 years after Jesus' death. That's when that's the consensus on when the Gospel of Mark was written. So yeah, I think that what happened is 40 years after this man was crucified, people said, oh, this is this would be a sick martyr to use in our story. And then they did.
Okay. Well, then I have a question. So you think they twisted the story and they made him look like, all this and this and that. Like, they lied about it, basically saying, right?
Yeah, I think they added mysticism to the story, yeah. I don't think Jesus performed any miracles, actually. I think healing the sick, he probably had medicine. He probably like learned some sort of holistics at the time and used medicine to help people, possibly. Feeding the poor, I don't think he turned water into wine. I think he just gave people food and whatnot. Right? And then they took these things, they added miracles to it. They mystified Jesus's story because it looked better in the church.
So then why did they die for that then?
A lot of people. Why do people die for cults? I don't know. Why do people die for their cult beliefs? A lot of people do a lot of weird things.
Well, because they were misguided, for sure. And
these people could have been misguided.
But why did 12 of them? I'm telling you, out of 11 of them died for this man because they truly believed in him.
Okay.
If they made this guy up and they were gonna,
I don't think they died. I don't necessarily think they died for the man, but because again. Mark, according to the gospel, would have been killed around 68 CE. So he would have been killed 40 plus years after Jesus died, right? That's a long time for people to wait to finally take him out, But I think what happened is he wrote a story. It's typically said that he was killed for his faith. I don't know. He wrote a story that was added to a religion. That religion was growing in power, and the opposing side said, "Hey, if we get this guy out of here, maybe this will stop it." And it didn't. It continued to grow after that.
But when they were killing them, they were literally telling them that denounce your God, right? Denounce that he's not the Son of God, and we'll let you go. They had their chance, They had their chance to escape their death, but they didn't. And why would anybody go that far for? You say it's cold, right? You say,
I don't. The only reliable sources that really tell us that he was killed for his belief comes from the Bible, my G. It comes from the book making the claim.
Well, they were killed by the Romans, and I'm pretty sure the Romans did have a record of them killing them.
I'd have to look. I don't think we have Roman historical records for why they killed Mark. I can try to fact check it. Because if I'm remembering correctly, Mark was killed by pagans, wasn't he? Wasn't he killed by the pagans? Why would the Romans have historical records about that? Yeah, the only here it is. The only accounts of Mark's death are from the Acts of Mark, Eusebius of Caesarea, which is 4th century and 4th and 5th century historical book, and Coptic Christian writings from Egypt. So, like, we have no evidence from the time of Mark's death about why Mark died. It was all posthumously. Did I say that right? It was all written after the fact. But again, just to bring us back to topic, none of this proves that God is real. Even if Mark was killed because he believed, even if Mark believed Jesus to be the Son of God and was killed for this belief, that still doesn't prove it.
Well, Peter, no, he for sure died by the Romans. By crucifixion, he got crucified upside down, and he also died, like, because he didn't want to renounce Jesus Christ, but you've seen it.
There are no Roman records of Peter's death. Just by the way, there are none. Like, from Rome, the only records come from the church. There are no records from Rome that shows why Peter was killed.
Well, I'll tell you this. So you think Alexander the Great existed?
I will let you go down this route, David, but it's a theist argument that's used a lot. That's like a very poor theist argument. Yes, I think Alexander the Great existed. Like, I've claimed that I believe Jesus probably existed. There are what appears to be valid historical records that a person named Jesus existed at this time through writing from people that existed at the same time as him. I don't believe he's God.
But
these are two different things.
The problem with Alexander is that he was written about 300 years after the fact, meaning, like, nobody at that time knew him personally.
David, I don't know what you think this is. I don't know what you think this is proving. This doesn't prove anything.
What I'm trying to prove is that a lot of people think what Alexander did and that he existed is true, while their evidence is like supposedly there's like.
Also, I don't know. That seems like a claim that's not true. I'm gonna fact check that real quick.
All right, you think that they didn't write about him 300 years after the fact, or?
I think it's untrue that no one wrote about Alexander the Great when he was alive.
All
right. Yes. Yeah. No. He had people write about him when he was alive. It's just that the writings didn't survive. We don't have the writings anymore.
Oh, so we don't have the writings, you say?
Yeah, that doesn't mean people didn't write about him. We just don't have any writings from that time. But again, none of this proves that Jesus is God. Or that God exists. None of this proves that.
But I do have one that says, okay, so around 90 AD, right? This Jewish Pharisee, right? Or rabbi. He wrote about Jesus, and he did say that he died, and after 3 days, he rose from the dead. And
yes, I don't believe Jesus rose from the dead. I believe, if anything, Jesus' tomb was grave robbed. I do not believe Jesus rose from the dead. There is no concrete evidence of this. I've never seen someone come back to life after 3 days. You've never seen someone come back to life after 3 days. It's the burden of proof to prove Jesus rose from the dead is a really high bar to hit that would require some really concrete evidence. We don't have any of that.
Mm-hmm. Well, well, back then you can't expect them to have concrete evidence, like as a video or like medical records.
No, I expect
really
more than
that,
a couple people saw Jesus walk out of his tomb, though. That's not telling me anything. Anybody could have seen anybody walk out the tomb, right? You were making a claim around mysticism.
I have one person. His name is Flavius Josephus. He was a first century Jewish historian who provided external information on some people and events found in the New Testament. And he did write about him that he rose from the dead after 3 days. And it shows here, it says that found in book 18 states that Jesus was the Messiah and a wise teacher who was crucified by Pontius Pilate. It was in his writing. It was in book 18 that, and it tells us that he was the Messiah and he was crucified by Pontius Pilate. And he's a Jew. Like,
yeah. So what I'm showing is multiple biblical scholars. Louis H. Feldman, John P. Meir, E.P. Sanders, Bart D. Ehrman, they all kind of agree that the line in Flavius's text where he says, "Now there was about this time Jesus, a wise man, if it be lawful to call him a man, he was the Christ, and when Pilate had condemned him to the cross, he appeared to them alive again the third day." Most of the people believe that this was later added to the text and that it was not like originally in the text. But again, I just want to reiterate, none of this proves Jesus is God or that God is real, because we're taking everything from biblical claims and we're not like, none of this proves this, my G.
Well, Flavius is not using biblical claims. He's using, he's a Jew.
It appears to be that the consensus that Flavius Josephus never actually wrote this line and that it was later added into the passage. Bart D. Ehrman said the passage in Josephus that calls Jesus the Christ and speaks of his resurrection is partly an interpolation by later Christian copyists. John P. Meir said, "It is agreed that the Testimonium Flavianum as it stands is not authentic. The core may go back to Josephus, but Christian scribes have clearly edited it." So scholars are saying differently. But again, none of this proves that God is real.
Okay, so you say Jesus is real, right? But he's not God.
Jesus could have probably been a real person, alive, but not God.
Okay. You say probably, but a lot of people back then did say he was real, and a lot of people do say that he was real.
That's
he did
fine.
Exist. Not trying to say that he was God, but that he did exist. Right?
There's also conflicting information because the circumstances around Jesus's birth and life have similar stories in other ancient spiritual religious faiths. So could a person of Jesus existed? Yes. Could that person have is that person mystical? No.
Okay. Well then how come, right? Because a lot of people do think that the things he did were true, right? But let's say, for example, when he was on the cross, right? He said those lines that a lot of people like to use that like proves that he's not God, was just like, my God, why have you forsaken me? Right? How come when that verse was written, right? Because it refers to Psalms 22. And it's just literally just like a description of like what happened when he was crucified. And this psalm was written 1,050 years before before he existed, before Jesus Christ was
because
supposed to exist, right?
because crucifixions had been done for centuries. Jesus wasn't the first person to be crucified,
Well,
and he
crucifixion
wasn't the
didn't
last.
exist during that time.
Yes, they did. What? Crucifixion was like a pretty standard practice.
1050 BC, crucifixions didn't exist.
Yes, they did. Like, crucifixion was a pretty standard practice. Our earliest recorded evidence of crucifixion, our earliest evidence of a crucifixion is from the 6th century BCE with the Persian Empire. So I don't know what.
Yeah, 600 years before Christ.
Yeah, what's the claim you're making though? That you're again making a claim that
I want you to explain. No.
Here's how I'll explain it. The Bible is lying to you. This is how I'll explain it. If it's in the Bible and it's talking about something mystical, it's most likely lying. It is making something up.
But the psalm is not mystical.
It's making something up.
It's just straight up just pure how he died. Like if you read the whole chapter, it's Psalms 22. If I can find it. Let me see. Right there. All right, there you go. It says here, right? My God, why have you forsaken me? And then it's like a song, right? But here, there's one verse that says, they pierce my hands and feet. All my bones are on display. People stare and gloat over me. They divide my clothes among them and cast lots for my garment. And I don't know if you knew what happened during Jesus' crucifixion was that, they put nails in his hands and feet, right, on the cross. And when he was whipped, he literally was showing like his bones and his flesh. And what you call it? And there was Roman soldiers underneath him just gambling for his clothes.
Yeah, I don't know what you think this is proving, bro. This isn't proving anything.
What I'm trying to say is that they predicted how he was gonna die.
The original psalm, the cry of anguish, the original psalm does not mention having nails in your hands.
They do. They say they pierced my hands and feet. This is on Psalms 22, verse 16. They say, dogs surround me, a pack of villains encircle me. They pierce my hands and feet.
Okay.
And then on the next verse it says, all my bones are on display. People stare and gloat over me. And then after that, it says,
they pierce my hands and feet doesn't really tell me anything. They pierce my hands and feet could be anything, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be a crucifixion. But again, all you're doing. Wait. All you're doing is saying, well, the Bible tells me that Jesus quoted something from a long time ago. That doesn't tell me Jesus was God or that God exists, David. None of this is answering that question.
I think you're taking it the wrong one. I'm trying to say is that they quoted something that was going to happen to him. Like, they talked about something that was going to happen in the future, right? Without even knowing.
I don't think that this is I think Jesus was quoting something that had relevance to what he was going for, not the other way around. I don't think when King David originally said Psalm, or King James, or whoever it was, I don't remember I think it was David, originally said Psalm 22, that he was making a prediction that this was going to happen to some man named Jesus in the future. I think he was more explaining what was happening to him. But it doesn't matter because the thing that claims this all to be true is the Bible, which again is the claim, not the evidence, David.
Well, he did a lot of things too, like what you call it?
Thank you, boo.
Another one that he did was
That Fuzz
a lot of people
donated $20.
obviously don't think it's true, but he was born of a
stop
virgin,
trying
right?
to use the Bible to prove the Bible. Yeet.
Okay, David, we are gonna move on. Do me a favor. What's today? Is today Wednesday? Is Skep Talk today or is Matt on today? What's the line schedule today? Who's on today? Am I high? Hey, thank you all for watching this video. If you don't know me, I'm Jovan Bradley. I'm a leftist content creator who does debates, political commentary, gaming, and more. If this is your first video, thanks for sticking to the end, and I hope you subscribe. I post videos daily, and there are hundreds of past debates on my page for you to enjoy. Thank you to all of my YouTube members. Your continued support helps me create as much as I can. Consider joining. A membership starts at $2.99 and gets you access to our community Discord, early access to videos, and more. Shout out to my Tier 4 members, Zurith Moonpaw, Kazim, Never Again, Ovaltine, Sylvia Snow, Bamji, Emery Emojin, Ayla Ursus, Vel, Kelsey K, Jake Gorshander, Matthew Holloway, Vampy, Yemye, Mealy, and Dragon Nerd. Your continued support goes a long way to me continuing the fight for equity, justice, and education. Thank you again for watching.